All right. So speaking of speaking of masking officers arresting people, look, this is something we need to touch on here. Hopefully, we don't get banned for this.
Yeah.
We say there is no definitive scientific study, and I've still asked, no one has sent me this, that shows your mask stuffed in a glove compartment, any reusable mask that you are using in the way most Americans are using it, actually effectively blocks the transmission of COVID. Okay? Find me that, not sanitized masks that are thrown out, that are applied with surgical gloves in a hospital setting. The study doesn't exist. But we can now go one step further and say, absolutely beyond any shadow of a doubt, in some scenarios, not all, masks hurt. They cause harm. And we need to weigh the pros and cons. We're at that point in our life. Look, it's been going on for over a year. I think it's time to weigh the pros and the cons of mask wearing. But the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, the doomsday lady, said that kids playing soccer this summer still need to wear masks. Here you go.
The CDC has issued guidance on summer camps for this summer that advises kids to wear masks except when eating or swimming. You know, outdoor activities and sports, they need to wear masks, avoid close contact sports.
Thanks for throwing the swimming part in.
We saw last summer that there were outbreaks in summer camps and the kids had to go home. They had to not attend these summer camps. We're trying to make it possible for these kids to be able to have as normal of a summer as possible. If people are playing tennis and they're far away, we can say that their masks can come off. But if they're crowded on a soccer field, they're on top of each other, they're heavily breathing, we don't really think that's a good idea right now. These are kids who likely will not be vaccinated.
Hey, guess how I know what she just said is bull. She just said if girls are playing soccer, they're on top of each other. Have you ever seen 7-year-olds play soccer on a regulation-sized field?
Like miles away.
The most likely score is 0-0, and someone shows up with a bouquet of dandelions, okay? I have nieces who play soccer.
I feel like she should be looking at her cousin Larry and telling him not to be ridiculous.
Soccer players are right on top of each other. It's against the rules of soccer to have any sort of aggressivity or masculine gameplay, let alone with girls who have to take double the strides.
I mean, I'm sorry. Does the NFL wear masks when they play? How about Major League Soccer? How about any of the other professional sports around the world that don't wear masks at all? And so now you're saying that kids are at unique danger from
but if you come to my house and play mask ball, you better be masked up.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It's just him hitting you with a ball while you wear a mask.
A lot of heavy petting.
Don't let the flyer fool you. It's not a fun. Mask ball is not. It just hurts.
It's just you're in a mask and there's teabagging.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
So this is
the drink.
Like I was saying that Lipton. What I was saying is it hurts. It hurts. It hurts people. So let me get to this. Maggie Williams, she's a high school track athlete in Oregon. Now, we have multiple examples of this, but this is a more recent one. Collapsed at the end of her race because of the mask that she was required to wear. To be clear, she set a record when she was doing this. So she set a record. She was pushing herself, as athletes tend to. You can't compare yourself sitting in a cubicle or, God forbid, a government employee where you're working in a cubicle all day.
Or a chicken restaurant.
Right. To an elite athlete who is trying to set their personal best, let alone a state best, let alone a national best, to try and get maybe, I don't know, a college scholarship if, God willing, there isn't a man who decided to throw on a maxi dress and compete in your division. So this girl in Oregon, we have the clip. She was wearing a mask and she passed out and hit her face on the ground and I believe may have suffered a concussion, direct result of a mask. Here you go.
Maggie Williams just seconds away from setting the Summit School record in the 800 meter. A moment of glory. Overshadowed by this moment of concern. Williams finished in 2 minutes and 8 seconds, collapsing as she crossed the finish line. Williams blames her lack of oxygen on the mask she's required to wear during competition.
Clearly in the past this has never happened, and then this race that I was wearing a mask, it did happen, which I don't think is a coincidence.
Her coach echoing that belief, saying this was not a conditioning issue, it was a mask issue.
It was a different response than I've seen for kids that have collapsed to the track just because they were exhausted. She wasn't sure where she was.
OHA listened, releasing this updated mask mandate Monday afternoon. The guidance will allow people to take off face coverings when competing in non-contact sports outdoors.
So, that's sad. That's heartbreaking. And by the way, we did a segment on this where I went and I trained at the gym and my oxygen levels got to what we're told from the CDC, what we're told from American health authorities was too low. It was hypoxia. So I experimented with this myself. If you look at the metadata, you can go to PubMed and see restricted breathing with mask, that of course oxygen levels are lower. And keep in mind, if one person pulls their mask down, let's say cheats there, they will have an advantage over their fellow athletes that Lance Armstrong didn't have with EPO. When you're talking about these performance-enhancing drugs, like EPO is blood, inciting blood doping to increase your red blood cell count. Why? So you can oxygenate the muscles, right, the tissues more effectively. You're talking about maybe a 6% increase versus actually having access to oxygen
to a man.
And by the way, this is important. Not wearing a mask while exercising is already in line with the guidelines. You don't need to wear a mask when running outside by yourself. So this is a perfect example where it wouldn't be necessary. But here's the problem. Here's what happens. When you create a culture of fear, right, and you create a culture of Karens out there who go, why aren't you wearing your mask? Why aren't you wearing your mask? Well, this is what happens. Even if it's in line with guidelines, you have enough parents who complain, who go to the parent-teacher boards, and so the coaches go, I just don't want to deal with this heat. I don't want to be fired because I'm following the guidelines, but they're mad about it. You know what? I had this when I was at, by the way, a restaurant, and I had a cigar. Okay? I had a cigar, and a lady came over and said, I can smell your tasty cigar from over here. I said, well, you must be really sensitive because it's not even lit. I was going to meet someone afterward at the cigar lounge. And this is just what, and they complained, and imagine if that person had the authority to remove my livelihood because they have an opinion and they think that everyone else is anti-science. By the way, hit the notification bell because that doesn't mean a whole lot if you're just subscribed anymore. And the best thing to do is, look, we're a live show, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, okay? And over-under on YouTube changing the live algorithm because they don't like seeing us being the top 3 out of 5 in any given week.
You make a great point, though. It really is because it is a culture of fear. And when you see somebody running down the street, especially wearing a mask, it's because they're afraid to get yelled at. It's the only reason they're wearing it.
Or they're virtue signaling, in which case they're my enemy.
Well,
they're afraid to get yelled at, but they're also afraid to be outed to their workplace. So they're saying, oh, you got to fire this person or ostracized in the community. It's stupid. It's definitely like communist China.
We have an exact example of that. So none of this stopped, even though it's within guidelines, New Hampshire track coach Brad Keyes from being fired for not requiring his athletes to wear masks. This is from within the last month.
Brad Keyes was fired this week as the track and field coach at Pembroke Academy in Pembroke, New Hampshire, and he has been outspoken about it online.
I made my choice, he made his.
Keyes says he was not going to force his athletes to wear masks while competing.
Masks restrict breathing. There's no question about it, especially think about running full speed. The wind is in your face. It's shoving the mask back into your nose and your mouth.
Gets you really tired, especially on, it's going to get up to 80 degrees soon, and it's going to be really hard for us to keep doing what we like to do.
The New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association's outdoor track guidelines recommend that athletes wear a face covering during competition.
Okay, first off, we just had an example of a cop who was felony, right? Felony murder, right? Who didn't have due process. This guy, no due process. He was in line with the guidelines, scientific guidelines. By the way, so were we on the video that got removed on our 15-day, the anniversary, 15 days to flatten the curve, removed from YouTube because it highlighted the guidelines back then, which go against the guidelines today. Is there justice for this guy? People say, whoa, cancel culture, consequence culture. The man was canceled for being pro-science and following the guidelines. This is important. That he just said, oh, wearing masks impairs breathing. It impedes breathing. That's a controversial statement? Have any of you heard of training mask? I think this is something they sponsored not that one, but they sponsored the UFC. This whole idea was like training at altitude, which by the way is a scam. It doesn't work. All it does is make you weaker for longer periods of time, much like CrossFit or being a professional soccer athlete.
Stop it.
It doesn't actually work. You have to live at elevation for a very long time to get the benefits, and you lose it very quickly. The point is, that's anti-science. Making runners who are out there by themselves wear masks is anti-science, and people are losing their lives for being and losing their livelihoods. Sorry. But you know what? Hey, why do we separate them? For a long time in the world, we didn't separate lives versus livelihoods. Try and if you went back to a Native American, the culture that leftists so love to glorify. If you went back and said, hey, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to remove your land. I'm going to remove your property. I'm going to remove your ability to make a living. Also, I'm going to take all your weapons. And if I see you hunting, we're going to put you in this wicker cell. You'd be scalped before breakfast.
It's like, what else is left?
But we've now separated it because you don't need a livelihood. The government can be your livelihood. But let us remove it first.
This wasn't last year. This was April.
Well, let me just, before we move on here, I want to make sure that I get this straight. So you have to wear one while running, but people eating food next to each other, if they're sitting down, don't have to wear a mask. If they stand up to go grab something from the napkin dispensers, they do have to wear one. If you wait in line at the restaurant, you need a mask. But if you don't... It makes perfect sense.
Well,
also, I have a strange urge to download Microsoft
Paint.
Anything Microsoft.
Paint.
I have a feeling to divorce my super rich husband.
Yes, exactly.
And start a measles pandemic.
I'm going to invest in vaccines.
What happened?
I don't know.
Why is iced tea on the screen? Whew.
Well,
anyway.
Does he have to say yes to everything?
He does. Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.